الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I've been asked to say a few words about Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. I just want to spend a few minutes inshallah to don't really do many speeches, but more like a dars, a few points which we can reflect on until the next speaker comes, inshallah. So, some of the main points about Sayyidina Bilal's life we already know, but when I was thinking about his life and about how can we practically follow his example in the 21st century. So first of all, as you know, by way of introduction, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, Sayyid al-Mu'azzineen, this is the title Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave him, the Sayyid of all the Mu'azzineen. And subhanAllah, here we are, it's amazing that in the 21st century, 14 centuries after he's left this world, we are remembering this man. And even one of the non-Muslims, a very famous non-Muslim writer on Islam, he wrote about 2 centuries ago, he said that this is just amazing that we used to think in our time that Alexander the Great, every child knows Alexander the Great, but it seems that when Sayyidina Bilal, who was just a normal black slave, when he came into the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I think that Sayyidina Bilal is even more famous nowadays than Alexander the Great. Yeah. So this is the maqam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to people who come in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that even a normal black slave who in his time people would hardly consider him to be a human being. People used to buy and sell slaves the way that you go to the supermarket and you buy items, buy food. They would go and buy this people, £5, £10. So they didn't even consider him to be a human being, and even non-Muslims are writing that it's amazing that he is more famous than many of the famous warriors and kings. If you go to any child and ask them about the famous kings, famous conquerors, the number of children around the world who will know Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu will be greater than the people who know Alexander the Great. This is the maqam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to anybody who comes in the presence of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. Remember me, I will remember you, I will make you remembered until Yawm al-Qiyamah, inshallah. And this is something which is a great fakhr for us, that, and this is something that a lot of Muslims don't even know themselves. The fact that if you look just in 2008 when Obama came into power, there was so much hype on the media about this, that subhanAllah, that alhamdulillah, the black people are now getting the same rights as white people. Finally we have a black president. But 14 centuries ago, and this is what our Muslims should know, that the Halima Sa'diyah radiallahu anha, who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who respected her like his own mother, she was a black lady. His adopted son, Zayd ibn Haritha radiallahu anhu, he was also of black color. So the first lady who fostered Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and gave him milk, she was a black lady. The first child who Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam took in as a slave and then freed and treated like his own son was a black person. The first young man that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he made in charge of a big army was Osama bin Zayd, who is the son of Zayd ibn Haritha. He was also black as well. So, and Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, the first muazzin, all of these people were black. Now, the Western world, in 1833, only about 150 years ago, 1833, this is when they abolished slavery. And even until recently, even when Obama was elected for president, there was still a lot of racism towards him. And even now, just a few days ago, I was listening to something, and Obama, his term now is going to end next year. And even a lot of people in America are saying that even till now, there is still a lot of racism in America. Even till now, they are not equal, and a lot of people, a lot of senators there, simply oppose him in any policy that he makes just because of the color of his skin. So our young people need to be taught this. They should have this fakhr and they shouldn't feel inferior to the people in this country who they're living amongst. They should feel fakhr and feel superior, that you people only now you're giving equality to black people, and only 150 years ago you ended slavery. Islam, 14 centuries ago, tried to make black people equal in everything, whether that's in the form of our Prophet ﷺ's noble foster mother, or the person he adopted as a son, or the person who, Sayyidina Bilal, who not only he made the first muazzin, but he made him climb on top of the Kaaba and give the azan, and gave him the title of Sayyid al-Mu'azzinin. For Alhamdulillah, we have a lot of elders here. For you people, this is very basic knowledge. You all know these things. But unfortunately, when young people like myself, when we teach youngsters, they don't know even the very basics about Islam. And this is why they have this inferiority complex. This is why I'm mentioning some of these basic points. So we need to teach them these things. Somebody was saying once in a speech that after Yazid, when he died, shortly afterwards there was a famous king, and he was a big zalim. His name is Hajjaj bin Yusuf. So Hajjaj bin Yusuf, he came a short time after Yazid. He was a very big zalim. He even killed some of the Sahaba. They say he killed about 100,000 people. And one of the speakers was giving a talk on Hajjaj bin Yusuf and saying what a zalim he is. And he said afterwards, somebody came to me and said that, Sheikh, I can't believe you. How can Hajjaj bin Yusuf be such a bad person as you described, killing 100,000 people and so forth, if he is the son of Yusuf al-Islam? He thought that there's thousands of years difference, but unfortunately our youngsters don't even know the basics of our great Sahaba Ikram. And they believe the West now. Lots of people nowadays are writing these books saying that Islam brought slavery, and this is one of the greatest attacks against Islam, about slavery, that it's a deeply embedded thing in Islam. So our youngsters should know these things, that 14 centuries ago, whenever anybody made any mistake, somebody intentionally ate whilst fasting, what was the punishment? Go and free a slave. If you look in our books of fiqh, in any punishment, you break your promise, you break your fast intentionally, what's the punishment? Go and free a slave. In fact, even in Mishkat Sharif, a famous book of hadith, one of the hadith Rasulullah is reported to have said that somebody asked him, what's the greatest action? And he said the greatest action in Allah's eyes is freeing a slave. And the thing that Allah hates the most is talaq, is divorce. So always Rasulullah was giving ishara to free slaves. Now our youngsters should know this, because when they go to university and college, they are brainwashed into thinking that Islam did not treat black people equally, and Islam has this idea of slavery. And obviously, unfortunately nowadays, what's happening with these terrorists in Syria and Iraq, again the media is saying that these people are taking those who they capture as slaves because Islam says that slavery is allowed. So one of the signs of Islam, anybody who has ishq for Islam or for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the signs is that you must learn how to defend Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is being attacked for this reason. So Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he has many titles. Sayyid al-Mu'azzinin, this is a title given to him by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu is the one who freed him. Even Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he used to call him Sayyiduna Bilal. Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, he said, Sayyidina Umar said, Abu Bakr Sayyiduna wa a'taqa Sayyiduna. That Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu is our Sayyid, and he is the one who freed our Sayyid. So they used to consider him, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, as their leader. He has many other good qualities as well. Apart from being a great muazzin, he was also a very good economist. He was very good financially, and this is why when the Baytul Mal was set up, he was the first person who was made the treasurer of the Baytul Mal. So he had great financial skills. He was very intelligent as well. He was the one who was made in charge of assigning all the money for the widows and the orphans and so forth. He was also a great warrior as well. So every single battle in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and every battle afterwards as well, he was participating. So great muazzin, great financial mind, very intelligent, great warrior as well, and a great ashik of the Ahlul Bayt as well. Great ashik of Rasul. in fact, he used to love the Ahlul Bayt so much that there are some people, some Sahaba, who were not by blood, they were not part of the Ahlul Bayt, but because they were so close to the Ahlul Bayt, that they were considered part of the Ahlul Bayt. So Salman al-Farsi is a famous example that he was considered part of the Ahlul Bayt, and Sayyidina Bilal is also amongst them as well. So we find many hadith where whenever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam he needed anything to do, he needed, for example, when Fatima al-Zahra when she got married, he wanted somebody to go and buy her some clothes and buy perfume. Who did he send? Sayyidina Bilal. Go and buy my daughter the things for her wedding. There's so many hadith like this. So he was always very attached to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to the Ahlul Bayt as well. He was very, very close to Fatima al-Zahra, Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, very close to Al-Hasan wal-Hussein radiallahu anhuma. So that's something that we can take from his life, the great ishq Rasul and great ishq for the Ahlul Bayt as well. The other thing about him, apart from being very intelligent, very strong, and having a beautiful voice for the adhan, is that he was also so pious that he was basically promised Jannat in this world. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam once saw him and said to him, after the Mi'raj, Rasulullah said to him, "Tell me which good action do you do? Because I heard your footsteps in Jannat." And Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, out of his humbleness, he said that I don't do any particular good action, but one thing I do is that I always do is that when I do my wudu, I do the two nafal of tahiyat al-wudu. So these kind of actions are something that we can also learn from his life and try to implement in this day and age, inshallah. And that's something that we should try to aspire to, that do as many good actions as you can, so that inshallah we go to Jannat without hisab. And on Yawm al-Qiyamah there will be many people who do so many good actions that they won't even have any hisab. They will go straight to Jannat, inshallah. So in terms of thinking about how can we follow Sayyidina Bilal in the 21st century, so Ishq Rasul, Ishq of Ahlul Bayt, trying to do so many good actions that inshallah we don't even have hisab in the hereafter. Go straight to Jannat, inshallah. Now, it's very unfortunate that we don't have more youngsters here, but for the few youngsters who are here, one thing I would like to emphasize about what you can learn from Sayyidina Bilal's life. MashaAllah, we have elders here, you will always see them in the first row of the namaz. For the youngsters to encourage you to come to the masjid and to come to the first row. Sayyidina Bilal, one thing we associate with him, when you think of Sayyidina Bilal, what do you think of straight away? The adhan. So there's many beautiful ahadith about the fadail of azan. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, very beautiful hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, very beautiful, he said, "Inna Allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala as-saff al-muqaddam." Very beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself and the angels, they salute and they praise and they send salam upon the people in the first saf. And then the hadith goes on to say that wal muazzin yughfar lahu bi maddi sawtihi, that the muazzin is forgiven according to the greatness and loudness of his voice. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on to say that wa yusaddiquhu kullu min ratbin wa yabisin, every ratb and yabis, every wet and dry thing will testify for him on Yawm al-Qiyamah. So everything which hears the voice of the muazzin, whether it's alive or as we say in English, animate or inanimate, even the rocks and the stones and the trees, everything will testify on Yawm al-Qiyamah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that I heard this man doing the adhan. And then finally Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that the ajr of the muazzin is mithlu ajri kullu man salla ma'ahu, that the reward of the muazzin is equal to as many people that come and read namaz in that masjid. So if you do adhan in a big masjid and there's 2,000 people there, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said you will get the same reward as those 2,000 people who are doing the namaz. So this is inspiration, I hope, to the young people to come to the first step of the masjid and to do the adhan. You get rewarded everybody who does the namaz behind you. Also, if you can't do the azan in the masjid, if you can't come to the first row, you can get the same reward inshallah if you do the adhan and the jamaat in your houses. If you have any sort of valid excuse, for some reason you can't come to the masjid, you should do adhan and jamaat in your house. Because in terms of the fadail of azan, whatever the azan is, shaitan runs away from there. So Rasulullah said that even if there are only 3 people, if there are just 3 people in a village and they don't do the adhan and those 3 people don't do jamaat, Rasulullah said shaitan attacks them. Shaitan comes amongst them. And in the same way that when you have a group of sheep, which sheep does the wolf go for? It goes for the one which leaves the flock. In the same way, that's why Rasulullah said, even if there are only 3 people in a village, and they don't do azan and they don't do salah, the shaitan comes and attacks them. So don't become like that sheep which goes away from the flock and shaitan attacks it. Even if there's only 3 of you in the house, just yourself and your wife and your child, do the azan and do jamaat. Also, Rasulullah said many things about the virtues of the adhan, and he even said that if you people, if you could see and if you knew the reward of the namaz in the first saf and the reward of azan, you would fight over it. You would fight over it and you would draw lots. You know, you put all of your names in a hat or something and you pick it out who's allowed to do the azan and who's allowed to come into the first saf. So I hope our youngsters, inshallah, are listening and bear this in mind. That you make this habit of adhan and jamaat in the first saf. If you can't come to the masjid, at least do it in your houses. The other thing about Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, as I mentioned about slavery, I don't have time to go into a lot of detail about slavery here, but I would encourage all of the youngsters that if you claim to be Muslim and you claim to be Ashiq Rasul, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he was a freed slave, and slavery is as old as humankind itself. As soon as humans came on earth, very shortly afterwards they had slaves, and this is one of the biggest attacks on Islam. Nowadays, one of my teachers said that there are so many attacks on Islam that everybody nowadays, every single person needs to be half an alim. In the past you had one alim in every masjid, every city. Nowadays, so many attacks on Islam, everybody needs to be half an alim. Okay? So try to read whatever you can about what the attacks are on Islam, about the fact that Islam encourages slavery. You will get asked about this as young people in college and university, especially with what's going on now in Syria and Iraq, all this terrorism. And what I would say here briefly is that Islam, you should know, Islam is the first religion which actually came and gave the rights to the slaves. It's the first religion that came and said slaves actually have rights. And Rasulullah he said that your slaves are your brothers, treat them like your own brothers. As I mentioned earlier, so many punishments in Islam. If you do something wrong, the punishment is to free a slave. And the slaves in those times, the reason why Islam did not cancel out slavery on the spot is because if you have to use hikmat when you try to break a bad habit in somebody, you have to break the bad habit slowly. If you look at alcohol, for example, khamr, it was so deeply ingrained in the society. If Rasulullah came and said straight away, alcohol is haram, it would have been too difficult for people, and they would not have accepted Islam. So you have to also use hikmat. When you see somebody who's got a bad habit, you have to use hikmat and take that bad habit away in stages. So with alcohol, as we know, that in 3 stages it was banned. The first stage, after many years, in Makkah, 13 years in Makkah, it wasn't banned. In Medina, the people asked about khamr, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْمٌ كَبِيرٌ وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ. Look how the beautiful hikmah. Allah said that in Medina, after 13 years, that the people are asking you about khamr. Ya Rasulullah, tell them that khamr, it has some benefit. It has some faida in it, medical benefit, but it also has a lot of harm, and the harm in it is much more than the faida. So Allah is giving ishara here to people. He's giving ishara that this has got some benefit, yes, medical benefit, but it's got much more harm. So Allah is giving ishara to stay away from it. And then the second stage, when some people they drank alcohol and then they there was some fitna. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, second stage, He said, La taqrabu salata wa antum sukara. Don't come near the salah whilst you are drunk. And the Sahaba, Allah knew that they loved to pray. So they wouldn't drink alcohol because they wanted to come and pray. And in the final stage, when people were ready for it, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that this is rijsum min amal shaitan. That this alcohol and gambling and all of these things, these are the handiwork, the tools of shaitan. So stay away from it. So we have to also use the same hikmah in breaking people's bad habits. So the same with slavery, it was very deeply ingrained in the society. If Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had said straight away slavery is haram, the whole society would have collapsed. And we can understand this nowadays as well. That look, for example, in the 21st century, when the teachers, when they go on strike, what happens? It's a big problem. When the teachers strike for one day, or the train drivers, when they strike for one day, it's a disaster. It brings the country to a standstill. Just imagine that the public people who do public service, if they all said we're striking and we're not working again, what would happen to the society? It would all collapse. So everybody had slaves in those days to do their cooking and cleaning and to help them when they're traveling. To ban slavery straight away, it would not have been a wise thing to do. This is what we have to explain to our non-Muslim friends. So there were many ishara to ban slavery over time. And in our day and age, because nowadays slavery is prohibited around the world, the modern ulama have said that nowadays, even Islamically, slavery is not allowed. Okay, so this is something that we need to know about slavery when we ask by our non-Muslim friends. The last point I want to make is that nowadays we're living in a time where there is still a lot of racism, and we have a great opportunity to invite people towards Islam, especially black people. If we tell them about the rights that Islam gave to slaves, the rights that Islam gave to black people 14 centuries ago, for them this is very attractive. But I have to say, it's very sad to say that us, especially Sunni Muslims, Sufi Muslims, we are very lazy in da'wat. In giving da'wat to non-Muslims, the other Maqadir al-Fikr are very much ahead of us. We're very lazy. I can't think of any any Muslim organization, a Sufi Sunni organization, which is doing a lot of practical work in inviting people towards Islam. A lot of the dawah organizations, even if you go to Leicester town, the people who are giving out the leaflets, they're not mainstream Sufi Muslims. This is something that we need to work on. And Malcolm X, famous Muslim, black Muslim in America, in his last interview before he was killed, he said that when a farmer wants to grow some crops in his field, the farmer looks for which part of the field is the most fertile soil. Okay, and then he puts the seeds in the field which has the most fertile soil. And he says that for Muslims, if they use their common sense, the most fertile soil for da'wat is the black Muslim community. If you do da'wat to the black Muslim community, you will always feel like there's racist attacks against them, and they were slaves until 1833. If you tell them about Sayyidina Bilal and Zayd ibn Haritha and Halima Sa'diyah, these are all black people, how Islam treated them, there's a lot of opportunity for them to become Muslim. So this is something that we need to do, all of us. If you go to college or university or you work, tell your friends who might be of black background about Islam and about how it treats slaves and black people, the rights it gave them, and this can attract them towards Islam. And I'll tell you an interesting story as well. I'm not from Leicester originally, I'm from up north. And one of my dad's friends, when he was 12, 13 years old, when he was in school, one of his friends in his class was black. And my father's friend would tell him about Islam. People like you who are of black color, Islam, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave them so many rights. And he told them about Sayyidina Bilal and Halima Sa'diyah and Zayd ibn Haritha and how Islam is against slavery and black and white are equal. And this young man, he was 12, 13 years old, he was a Christian, from a Christian family, and he became Muslim. MashaAllah. He was so impressed by Islam, that how much rights Islam gives to black people. And he was so impressed by Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, that he actually took on the name Bilal himself. He's still alive nowadays. He lives up north. And his family used to beat him so much. His father used to beat him. We are Christian, we cannot become Muslim. And this young man, he loved Sayyidina Bilal so much, he said that to his family, you can beat me till you kill me, but I will never leave Islam. And then his father kicked him out of the house. And 20, 30 years later, he found out that his father is dying in hospital. And the strange thing is that Islam says to us that even if your parents do zulm on you, you should still be good to them. So this Bilal, he went to the hospital 20, 30 years after seeing his father, and after his father kicked him out of the house, and his father was on the hospital bed. And none of his other children came to visit him in the hospital. The only one was the Muslim, Bilal. And his father felt ashamed on the deathbed that, this is how I treated him, but because of Islam says be kind to your parents, he is the only person who's coming to visit me. But his father never became Muslim. And just before he died, he said to his son, Bilal, there's these small children in this hospital room. Take them out of the hospital room, because all around me, I can see people in black. Yeah? And they're looking very scary. And I think that these young children will get scared to take them out of the house, take them out of the room. And just after a few minutes, he passed away. But anyway, this is interesting, but the point of the story is that we can attract people towards Islam by giving them the example of Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. And this is what Malcolm X said. And Malcolm X said that I feel very sad that I am, as a Muslim, fighting for black people's rights, and nobody is helping me. None of the Muslim countries are helping me, and also the Muslims in America are not helping me as well. So we need to try our best to tell the people about Islam and about Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu. Want to finish off with the last point. Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he's called Bilal al-Habashi because he was from Ethiopia. Habasha means Ethiopia. And as we know that when the Muslims, when they went to Habasha, they went to Ethiopia, Najashi, the king, he was also impressed by Islam, and he, alhamdulillah, he became a Muslim and he died a Muslim. And also, when the Muslims, when they left Habasha, they left Ethiopia and they went back to Medina, Najashi sent with him, he sent with the Muslims 70 people, 70 Christians. And those 70 Christians, when they went to Medina, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them again about Islam and about the rights he gives to black people, and recited Surah Yasin to them, all those 70, they were in tears and they all became Muslim. So again, this should give us inspiration to invite our non-Muslim friends, especially of black origin, towards Islam, inshallah. And our sheikhs, they taught us that we Muslims in Britain, we are like the Muslims in Rasulullah's time who went to Ethiopia. Because in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he sent the Muslims to Ethiopia, he said, go there because there is a Christian king who rules the country. The Christians there, they have justice in them. Justice and fairness. So we Muslims in Britain, we are like the Muslims in Ethiopia, because the way that they went to a country where there were Christians who had justice and fairness in them, alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed us as well that we are living in Britain and there is justice and fairness. In the terms of the school system, the hospital system, everything is fair. And this is a great opportunity for us to, inshallah, do some dawah work here. This is something that we need to act upon, inshallah. We want to finish off with a very beautiful story about Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, great Ashik Rasul, great Ashik of the Ahlul Bayt. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, Sayyidina Bilal radiallahu anhu, he felt so sad, he couldn't stay in Medina. So he left and he went to Syria. He said, if Rasulullah is not in Medina, my heart is going to break, I can't bear it. So when he went to Syria, he saw a dream. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came in his dream and said, Ya Bilal, why have you left us? Why don't you come and visit us? So he came back to Medina, and Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu saw him and said, why don't you do the adhan for us? And he said, I can't do it, because if I don't see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in front of me whilst doing this adhan, my heart won't be able to bear it. And then Sayyidina Umar asked him, many of the people asked him, he said, I'm sorry, I can't do it. But this was his love for the Ahlul Bayt as well, that Imam al-Hasan and Imam al-Hussein radiallahu anhuma, they were 6 and 7 years old. They came to him and said, please do the adhan for us. And he hugged them, and when he hugged them, he smelled the great khushbu scent of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from them. And he did the adhan because these two, Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein, he could not refuse the Ahlul Bayt. He did the adhan, and he started, and then when he came to Ashhadu Anna Muhammad Rasulullah, he couldn't bear it, he started crying, and the whole of Medina started crying, and the people, they say that after the day in which Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, this was the most saddest day that Medina has ever experienced. When Bilal said, Ashhadu Anna Muhammad Rasulullah, they couldn't bear to forget the beautiful memories of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Bilal, he also had this blessing of seeing Rasulullah in his dreams, and this is something that we should also aim for as well. Because they had the great Ishq Rasul in their hearts. This is why they used to see Huzur Pak sallallahu alaihi wasallam in their dream. Sayyidina Anas radiallahu anhu, Sayyidina Anas was also like Sayyidina Bilal. He was a khadim of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and khadim of Ahlul Bayt. He says that he used to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his dream every night. So the final story I will finish with, that how can we follow Sayyidina Bilal's example of trying to see Huzur Pak in our dream. There was a sheikh, and a student came to him and said, I want to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in my dream. How do I do it? Give me some advice. So the sheikh said to the student, come to my house for dinner, and I will tell you how to see Huzur Pak in your dream. So when he came, the sheikh gave him very salty food. Very, very salty food. And then the student said, I need water. He said, no water allowed. And then he said to him, go to sleep. So the student went to sleep. At Fajr time, the sheikh asked him, what did you see last night in your dream? And the student said, I saw so much water. I saw the rain was pouring, and I saw fountains and rivers and oceans and streams. I saw so much water in my dream all night. So the sheikh said that this is because you went to sleep thirsty. You had lots and lots of salt, so you went to sleep thirsty. So you were very sincere in desiring, in craving for water. In the same way, when you are very sincere in desiring and craving for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, thinking about him all the time, this is when you will see him in your dream. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to follow in the footsteps of Bilal and to see Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.